Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So you've probably seen my video I did about a year or so ago, why pros shouldn't use the XW Pro. It was a system that was installed and it just kept on glitching out. There was one thing or another and it kept on, having issues, and it was very difficult to get a hold of Schneider and to get the issues resolved, and we ended up replacing the system with a Solar 12K. So in that video, I was, I was not very nice to Schneider, and rightfully so. I'm not going to take back anything I said about them at that point. However, they did reach out to me, and they didn't have anything bad to say to me. They basically said, yeah, we had problems. We acknowledge that. Yes, this was an issue. We had glitches. We had, this was going on, that was going on. Yes, we had those problems. Yes, our tech support was terrible. However, we've fixed it. He said, I was speaking with a gentleman named Rob, and he said, we've hired 20 tech support people, over 8 or 9 months ago. And, we want your business. We want you to come back as a customer because we believe we have an awesome product, and they want me to buy their product. And I can't argue with them that they have a good product. Where I was arguing was that the firmware was glitchy, the software was glitchy, the whole thing was not user friendly, and the tech support was terrible. And he's like, yeah, we had 3 people on staff for tech support, and they were completely overwhelmed, and they just couldn't keep up, and that was that. And that happens, but he acknowledged that and said, if we want to grow as a company, or as a division of a company, we need to hire more people to do this. We need to make our software better. We need to keep our product from glitching. And this was a pretty, it was being used as a battery backup. So it was being used, rarely. It just had to sit there and do nothing. And it couldn't do that. So I went back and forth a little bit with them, and kind of got to the root problem, that for the issues I was having. And he's like, listen, we've fixed this problem, we've fixed that problem, we've fixed the other problem, but I'm not just gonna tell you that. I want to send you a complete setup, put it in your house, do whatever you want to it, prove to yourself that we've fixed these issues. And so that's what I'm gonna do. I have this whole nice setup here, and I got an XW Pro. I got a it's a 100 amp charge controller, 600 volt. Got the, what is this here? Battery monitor. Got the Insight gateway, Insight home right here. Auto generator start, the AGS, and a mini PDP, mini power distribution panel. And so I'm gonna hook it up here. I'm gonna hook my north-facing PV up to it, because that's all I have right now that can go in there. I've been running off of that for a while now. And get this all hooked up, and we're gonna see how it goes. But based on their responses to me, I've started considering them again. There have been other companies that have had different responses to people criticizing their products on YouTube, and I think Schneider did the right thing here, and they did it the right way, and I respect that, and I will entertain their product again based on that. But not just based on that. I'm going to hook this up, and I'm going to beat the crap out of it, and I'm going to run my house on it and see what it can do, because you see my videos on Solark. I love their product. They've had some issues starting my air compressor, my dryer, and I want to see what Schneider has to offer here. So hope you stick around. There's gonna be a few videos in this series here. So yeah, we'll get going installing this thing and see how it goes. Well, first things first, let's get this stuff out of the box. So we have the charge controller, the paperwork, and up there we've got, looks like a 1 amp fuse, some ferrite beads, and I'm guessing a temp sensor. Alrighty, so here we got the charge controller. This thing is massive. Not actually that heavy. So there's that. This looks like it'll be pretty easy to mount. One day later. Alrighty. So instruction manuals. Looks like we got caps for the battery terminals, a filter, temp sensor, a couple other odds and ends here. Mounting bracket. There we go, so very well packaged in there. And heavy, really, really heavy. It's like 130 pounds, I think, somewhere around there. See if I can put this up here without breaking my back. The power distribution panel, and I mean, you can install this without it, but it doesn't come with anything. It doesn't come with breakers or, you know, any way of turning the thing off, or, you know, any way to hook anything up real well. So advised to get some sort of a power distribution panel. This is the mini one. They make a bigger one as well, but definitely worth it. So this is pretty much equivalent to the GSLC that comes with the Outback Radian, or doesn't come with it. You can get it separately, but this is pretty much what this is. The only difference I can see is that this is a little bit bigger, so you can actually fit your hands in it. So that's nice. I know, you know, the Outback, it's, again, you can use it without the GSLC, but it's not recommended because you don't have any of the breakers. This mini power distribution panel comes with a 250 amp breaker for the battery in, and then it comes with two 60 amp breakers there, and grid in as well, so another 60 amp breaker for that. This is grid bypass and inverter out, so you can actually you can flip that on and bypass grid in right to your loads in case something goes down. All right, so this is the backer plate here. This goes on the wall, and then it's about 13 inches from the bottom of this to the bottom of the inverter. So I'm gonna put the bottom of the inverter probably around this line here. So measure up 13. This old plywood is so old that you can literally just make marks on it by scratching it. So there we go, 13 inches up. Probably good to mount it to a stud because this thing is heavy. So in my house here, the studs are 16 on center. I can see by the nails right here. So I'm just gonna hit 2 studs. This thing is heavy. Don't try this at home. There it is. All right, you should do that with 2 people. It's quite heavy. The bracket's nice and solid though. And so once you get it up here, it just hangs just like that. There's a couple screws that go on the top there. keep it on the bracket. So we got these two little screws in here. So those just go around the top here. They screw into the bracket. And that basically just holds the thing perfectly vertical and keeps it from going anywhere. Well, might as well open this up now. See what we got going on in here. Oop, there we go. So this little cover just comes off. Then we got all the terminals for hooking everything up here. We got AC load, grid, and gen. A couple grounds, bunch of relays. I'm just gonna open up the other side for fun here too. All right, I'll get you in a little bit closer here. All right, so over here, this is where you put all your wires. Got these nice terminal blocks right there. AC load, grid, gen. And I don't really think you're supposed to open this side, but there it is. There's no need to open it for doing the installation, as far as I can tell. But it's fun to see inside these things. A ton of capacitors. Look at that. Now, if there's one thing I would do differently, or ask them to do differently, because I wouldn't do it myself, would be to, I don't know, change this out to something that can actually control the thing. You know, you can kind of see what's going on here, kW in and out, amps in and out. If there's a problem, AC1, AC2, you can equalize your batteries, which doesn't matter to me. And you can turn power off. What I found with these is if you don't turn off the DC power, these turn off and then they turn back on again. Maybe that's different with this firmware and with this model. I'm not sure, but we will try that and see what happens. So yeah, if they put some way of controlling this, like, you know, right on the inverter, instead of having to hook up the gateway, that would be nice. Right under here, well, you can't see it from there, but two screws, loosen them up. And I haven't read the manual yet. I probably should at some point. I will. Don't worry, Schneider. I know you're watching this. Oh, there we go. This whole thing just comes right off all as one piece. There. Just gotta push back on this, and it sits right in there. All right, so right inside here, so you get these two little slots. So those screws are already in the XW here. You just loosen them up, slip that over, push back, and then tighten them up. The other one's hiding back there. And you got these little bus bars here that hook up to the inverter itself, and they move around a little bit. And then you get all the wires here that are going to hook up inside. They're going to hook right up into here. We'll get a few screws in the bottom there as well. All right, it's several days later. I haven't had time to work on this here in a little bit. So one thing that they forgot to send me was this circuit breaker. Over to my local CD Green Tech, and they happen to have one in stock, so I picked it up. This is, you're actually supposed to use 2 of these. You're supposed to use like probably a 60 in or maybe an 80 in and a 125 out. This is for the charge controller in and out, so this gets mounted right up inside there. So we'll put that together later. But I do already have a circuit breaker that's protecting my PV in, and that's right over in the corner there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mount the charge controller. So we have these knockouts right there. And then on the charge controller there, we do have knockouts that correspond there. There looks like there's 2 1-inch knockouts. Those guys right there, and then a 3/4. And I picked up some chase nipples that I'm going to use in between them. So we'll get those knocked out and get the charge controller mounted now. Just making sure those knockouts line up with the knockouts on the side of the inverter here. So inside the charge controller, I'll just hold this up here so you can see it. We'll get into it a little bit more later. A couple of fuse holders, terminal blocks. There's just a big junction box down here, which is actually really nice because it allows you to just get your wires in here. You know, wire for a 125 amp breaker. I mean, you're looking at like 2 to 1 gauge copper getting in there. So. Yeah, definitely nice to have some room. We'll get these knocked out here too. So the ones you're looking at knocking out are these 3 right here. The other ones are great, but and it does look like there's some in the back, but we don't need those for this. Lovely. All right, so one thing I read in the manual, and I didn't follow, was make sure this is laying flat. Don't knock these out. They will drop into that little, those little slots right there and drop right into the charge controller. So that's exactly what I did. I managed to get it out. It was a pain in the butt, but I have a couple more here. So don't drill on this. Don't knock it out when it's upside down like this. You will drop them in there. And if you leave them in there, you'll blow something up and you'll probably void the warranty in the process. So there we go. Just one screw, pulls right off. Also, there's a little chase down here for the network cables. Gotta pull that off. And there's one in the charge controller as well. Chase nipple in. Lock ring on. And that'll just kind of keep it from falling down for right now. Get the other 2 in. Just a lot easier that way. You don't have to get them perfect because you're using the chase nipples to do that. Pull it up just a little bit. There's a couple of holes in the back of the charge controller here as well, so we'll put a couple more screws in. But one last thing we gotta do is we gotta knock out these guys here as well. They send you these little bushings here that go in there. So we'll just get those out of there. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna put this I want to put this circuit breaker in here too. Pull this off. And then that guy just fits right in there. We'll put a couple machine screws in. I found the screws for this circuit breaker. They didn't come with the breaker for some reason. I don't know if they fell out of the box or what. I didn't see any of them in the bags of parts with this, but luckily they were just regular 632. It comes with like your outlets or light switches or whatever. So we got plenty of those laying around. So there we go, 125 amp circuit breaker. And this is for in between the charge controller and the battery hookup. So this gives the charge controller its overcurrent protection and disconnects it from the battery. So the last thing we got to do with hooking this up is we need to hook up these wires up into the inverter. So we have the two wires coming off the top of this breaker here. That is inverter output. So when you turn this breaker on right here, this turns on the inverter output. So we'll put that on AC load. And then you hook up your output kind of right down here. AC load, it's got L1, neutral, L2. So I always do black is L1, red is L2, and that's how it has it labeled here, BOS L2 load. Make sure those go up in there properly. Obviously, you always want to make sure the inverter's off when you're doing anything like this, especially because that screwdriver is touching, so it will go boom. So I totally should have left this piece off, but I didn't. So we're gonna run, let's see, what does that say? That says grid L1, neutral, load. This is all, it's all zip tied behind there. We're gonna cut that zip tie because I don't know that we have enough room otherwise. Another one back there. There we go. So the neutral, it does say goes onto the load side. That right up in there. There, and then BOS grid L1. Gonna do that. We'll go probably right into this guy here. Grid L1. Grid L2. Everything's labeled really well. It's nice in case you're not sure what's going on. Good L2. And we're not gonna hook up the generator right now. I do have a generator. I'll have to see if I'm gonna hook it up for this here. Make sure those are getting tight. There we go. And that's, the ground is now bonded to this bus bar right there. And so we're gonna get right in here and we're gonna connect the ground to the inverter lug. There are 2 lugs in here. We want it connected to the inverter because it's already bonded to the case right here. All right, this thing does come with instructions too, which I encourage you to read. So if we see here, AC loads connects right there. So AC load out, AC, line 1, line 2. Then neutral goes there. And it looks like there are 2 spots for AC loads out, so you can power, I don't want to lose that. You could power 2 different load centers with it. Then line in goes right up there. 1 and 2. Neutrals all get hooked up to this isolated neutral bar. Grounds all get hooked up there. And then if you do have a generator, let's see. Generator, I think you can just hook directly up to the generator. That looks like, yeah, that looks like that's it. So there it is. So that's where I'm going to leave off for this one. This thing is super easy to install. You know, took me a few days because I was working 20 minutes at a time because of my schedule right now. But honestly, really easy to install. I love how big the load center is down here. This is the mini PDP, the mini power distribution panel. And that's what's recommended if you have just one inverter. Then I have the 100 amp 600 volt charge controller over there. Got the chase nipples right there, and so that's to get power in and out of that. You know, you do have the same knockouts on the other side, and they do correspond there. I just chose to put it on the left side. You could put it on either side. And then everything gets hooked right up. All your power is going to come into this guy here. I need to check and see if you can use aluminum wire. With the price of copper right now, I may use aluminum. I got a pretty decent run to get over to where I need to go here. If not, we'll use copper. And then everything gets hooked right up. If you look here, you'll see all the ports. This is the CAN bus, AC sync. There's all kinds of stuff here. I haven't read the manual on that one yet. But that's pretty much it. Battery gets hooked right up here. These little bus bars get hooked up to the inverter. They give you a whole bunch of extra bolts and whatnot, lugs and stuff. I'm gonna bring my battery. I may even bring my battery into the garage and put it in a good insulated box and then hook it up. But that's it there. And then charge controller gets hooked right up there, and that gets hooked to the bus bar as well. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, awesome. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll get to hooking up everything in the next one, and then we can start testing this thing. I'm pretty excited to see what it can do. You know, there was another video that just came out recently where he was testing it versus a Solar 12K, and I was impressed, I gotta say. So we'll see what it can do. We'll see if they, you know, with all the firmware updates and everything, if they fixed all the glitching problems. You know, and I'm excited to see what this thing has to offer. So thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.